fell through, but hopefully another time, because I think it's a pretty cool skill to be able to have. And morels taste great. So
yeah, they do.
And it looks like we're live on Facebook, right, George? Am I and is Stephen set up to share?
Indeed.
I am.
Excellent. Fantastic. All right, so since it's 9 o'clock, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my share and get going. All right. Can we all see what's going on here?
Yes, we can.
All righty. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the RTP chapter of 1 Million Cups. Glad to see you all here this Wednesday morning. We appreciate it. What is 1 Million Cups? Well, let me tell you, 1 Million Cups is a free national program that's designed to educate, engage, and connect entrepreneurs. There are over 160 1 Million Cups communities across the country. And 1 Million Cups is a supportive and neutral space that's industry agnostic. We are not a pitch environment. And what we are is an entrepreneurial ecosystem building organization. And the purpose is to connect entrepreneurs to information and resources that they need in the community to help grow their business. We have a format here at 1 Million Cups. We have 1 to 2 startups that will give 6-minute presentations, followed by about 20 minutes of question and answer from the audience. We have our own unique way of doing that with breakout rooms in the virtual format, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And the key thing that we're trying to figure out is what can we as a community do to help our entrepreneur presenters while they're here giving their presentations. We love for our community to get involved in helping to grow what we're doing here. And there's several ways that you can do that. First, you can become an organizer, which is you help connect and build our startup community by becoming a member of the organizing team. So if you want to find out more information about becoming an organizer here at the RTP chapter, you could reach out to myself, Terry, George, Jenny, Frank, any of the organizers who are here, and we can help point you in the right direction to volunteer. You can also apply to present. So if you have a company that you think would benefit from presenting at our chapter 1 Million Cups, you simply go to our website, which is www.1millioncups.com/RTP. Right at the top of the homepage, there's a button that says apply to present. Click that button, answer a couple of questions, and our intake coordinator, Tracy, will reach out to you and walk you through the remainder of the process. If you don't have a company, or you don't think your company could benefit from presenting at 1 Million Cups, but you know somebody who does, and you think that they would benefit from presenting at 1 Million Cups, please let them know that we're here to help and invite them to a meeting or make a mutual introduction to one of our organizers, and we can reach out to them and talk to them about how we can help them grow their company. The last and certainly not least way that you can be involved is continue to attend our weekly meetings and give excellent feedback to our presenters. I want to thank our community organizers, of which there are many. First, we have Tracy Ames, Frank Pollock, myself, Rosalinda Cruz. Whoops, skipped over that one. We also have Terry Conlon and George Stewart, Jenny Midgley, and our previous lead organizer, Krista Johnson Sotomayor. I want to thank all of you all very, very much for everything that you do to help make these meetings go smoothly. I also want to thank our community sponsors, Muddy Dog Roasting Company, the Global Training Initiative at NC State, NC IDEA, American Underground, the Imperative Product Operations, Soto IP, and New York Life. Without further ado, I want to introduce Stephen Clift of GoodCarts, and he's going to be our presenter today. So let me go ahead and get off of here and let Stephen go do his thing.
All right, I'll share my screen here. Oh, you already, let's see.
There we go. Well, good morning. Thanks for having me here today, virtually from Minneapolis. So I'm going to talk about GoodCarts. Quick background, I'm the leader of GoodCarts. The founder is Chris Dykstra. Had a background 20 years in the nonprofit space, actually Tech for Good. And now it's meeting, my Tech for Good world has come into retail. I could say that the problem that we're trying to address is that the earth is on fire and we're all going to die, but it's actually a subset of that, right? There's a whole huge explosion in interest in ethical and sustainable brands, particularly via e-commerce. There's real growth in that space. Over half of the CPG growth, this is actually on the shelf as well, obviously, comes from just 16% of products in the last 5 years that were marketed as sustainable. We are only going to see more and more sustainable and ethical brands seeking to be discovered. So these are our 4 members of the GoodCarts network. We have Bella here on the top left, launching a new vegan baking mix brand. We have Marcy on the top right. She's sort of positioned, she actually has her own fair trade line on the QVC channel. She's been involved in this space for 25 plus years. She's positioned as the Martha Stewart of fair trade. We have Dean's Beans in the bottom corner, actually one of our biggest providers of traffic into our network, of well-established, very activist fair trade coffee brand. And on the bottom left, we have Carla. So they all have a challenge. They're like trying to figure out how can we grow, and we have 75 of these brands currently in our network. So the problem is how do these impact brands get discovered? And compounding that is the ever increasing digital ad costs that go up and up and up every year, and then also marketplace costs, whether it be Amazon taking their 20%, or even the ethical brand marketplaces that are emerging. They all take a good cut. So how do you protect your margin in that kind of environment? So our solution is we call it grow together, right? And how can we grow together for more profit and greater impact? And we're starting with cross promotion. So I'm going to do a little miniature demo here. If you actually ask if somebody asks you what was that GoodCarts all about, just say, hey, it's kind of like a smart digital version of coupons on the back of the receipt. Coupons on the back of the receipt. So as you check out of one of our member stores, you basically experience this. I do have a longer demo. It's about 5 minutes long at that URL, goodcarts.co/demo. But basically, imagine someone buying a shirt from any store, not a GoodCarts store, but just any store. This is a Shopify screenshot here. The order is being processed. And this is where the GoodCarts experience starts. We insert in the receipt of our member stores this little thank you banner. As thanks, we're offering you an exclusive discount of your choice from other sustainable and shop for good stores. Click here to choose. Stores can customize the text, customize the color to match the brand. It's very, very kind of plain Jane on purpose. We have an extremely high click-through rate from receipts. We sort of joke it's like conscious consumers with their credit cards still out in a buying mood. It's kind of a good audience, right? You can ask me offline what that percentage is. So let's imagine you click on that, click here to choose. Boom, here's what you would see, or on mobile, you'd see one at a time. These are live members of the GoodCarts network. And basically it's a brand discovery moment, right? And then there's that incentive to say, I'm going to try something new. And so you click one, you grab the code, and then you do go right to the store. So GoodCarts is really like 3 screens, right? It's the thank you banner, coupon page, and then the 2 pages to collect. We require an email address actually to collect the coupon. So these coupons are not in Google. So when I talk to stores, one at a time or via our various marketing, it's free, right? It's free to join, free coupon views, free site visitors. And with code, we actually dropped our commissions for the impact retailers, fair trade, ethical fashion, B Corps, social enterprises owned by nonprofits, social enterprises that are for profit. We're looking for that impact. And so that makes it a pretty radically easy thing to join, because you can also leave if it doesn't work for you. But we have an extremely high 95% retention rate. So we came with the Shopify app in September, went from a beta phase. We had about 20 stores for actually extended period of time, over a year and a half, 2 years. And then we now have 75 stores that are in a network, mostly driven by a much easier way to join. We launched a whole marketing campaign, and that has led to some pretty good momentum. I won't describe all this in terms of the 6 minutes we have here. So just a big increase. We also redesigned our coupons and doubled the redemption rate. So about 8% of the coupons that are claimed are redeemed. So that's pretty good. It's like kind of like double you would expect for industry standards. Now, here's actually, this leads me into like one of my top asks, which is I'll be on the next slide here. When we drop commissions, that means now we have to figure out, when we have 1,000 store members, what are some of the options for us to generate revenue? And we have a lot of ideas, but I'm not going to preempt your ideas because you might have better ones than we have. But basically, we have relationships, and how can we leverage those relationships? We also, I should note, have a lot of people who try to join that don't qualify for a good circle. So we have an unadvertised founders network of small businesses. With about 30 stores in there now. They're pretty low volume, to be honest, but it's a place where if you're just hungry to grow your business and you're willing to share your post-checkout traffic, you can join up there. So we do see an opportunity for this tool, as well as future coupon matching technology, to be used across retail as a whole. Always the goal of increasing sustainability. So we might, for example, help introduce more sustainable supply chain options to all kinds of stores. So the how can you help conclusion, obviously in every region of the country that I've been talking to, so thank you for having me as a virtual guest here. We're looking for people who know people who might be able to introduce us to basically impact entrepreneurs that have started some sort of a consumer or retail brand, as well as people who market those types of brands. We're exploring revenue explorations and looking at different kinds of models and ideas, and really want to tap your collective intelligence about, how might we leverage our relationships into additional revenue. We had commissions, I should note, right? So we may still do that for non-impact stories, but for the most part, we're looking at other models. Networking and advisors. So we're planning to spin GoodCarts. It's actually technically, I mentioned Chris Dykstra, the founder. He bootstrapped a software development company 15 plus years ago called WearCorp. We're basically a startup within that software development company. The plan is to spin it out as a B Corp. So we're looking for folks that could give us advice on the best way to hard bake in impact from the get-go, if you will, when we spin out. And then impact investors. Actually, in this case, we're looking for investors that have invested in other impact companies and are looking, they're a great way to get references, basically to pass the word along that this is a tool that they might send their investees to use. And lastly,
hey, Stephen, thank you.
Okay, good.
We've got to go to Q&A. We
Sounds
try to keep a good schedule. So when we go to Q&A, the first thing we'll do is we're going to move everybody into a breakout room. You'll have 5 minutes in your breakout room to discuss your topic. And then we'll come back here and do the full 20 minutes of Q&A. So the breakout rooms, we're going to do breakout room number 1 will be introductions to stores. Number 2 will be the revenue explorations. Number 3 will be networking, advisors, and investors. And then we'll have a 4th breakout room, which will be other ideas. So things that are not directly captured by these 3 topics. So go turn your cameras on and participate, please, in your breakouts, and we'll see you back here in 5 minutes.
George, I assume you'd prefer that I would stay here, hang out with you.
Yeah,
right?
we're going to ask you to stay here, simply because when we've had presenters go to a breakout room, and the breakout room turns into a Q&A with a presenter rather than an idea generation sort of thing.
If I can give you guys,
pardon me?
I was going to give you guys some praise. Obviously I tuned in before to watch your format, and I really, really like the breakout system you have. I've actually mentioned it to other cities, Denver and others, as I traveled virtually to different 1 million cup cities.
Can you stop sharing, please?
Absolutely.
Great. Now I can see you big.
There we go. Hey, and we're still streaming on Facebook. So, hello, Facebook friends.
Yeah. So if you are on Facebook and you're watching this and you do have a question, please submit your question on Facebook, and we'll include those in the Q&A. So, Stephen, how did you find 1 Million Cups RTP?
Well, so I'm part of 1 Million Cups Minneapolis, St. Paul. We're also really active in the Impact Hub, which is sort of like in the Twin Cities, a big co-working impact space. And so I tuned in there a few times, and we had some visitors that showed up from other parts of the country. And I thought, well, gosh, I wonder if I could do that. And so I went to the 1 Million Cup site and realized that I could very easily apply to present in a handful of other cities. And so, I'll probably will be doing 6 or 7 here total over these 4 months. So it's been a great opportunity.
So there are 300 across the country. I'm just wondering how you happened upon RTP.
I thought to myself, thinking about ethical, sustainable, where are these patterns around retailers that are trying to make a difference in the world? I kind of picked low-hanging fruit communities that I thought maybe had some vibrancy around that. So that's one reason I picked Raleigh. Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So it'll be interesting to see what this group comes up with. I will say that because RTP is an information and biotech centric market rather than retail. I mean, we don't have the mall that you do.
Right.
We'll see what kind of recommendations they come up with.
Yeah, well, in some ways, a lot of the brands that join us are smaller. We obviously they're getting bigger, but if you imagine someone at the farmers market, now they're on Etsy, now they have their own domain name on Shopify. I'm guessing you have a fairly vibrant farmers market, community in your region. I'm guessing. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I mean,
and so really, I mean, if you think starting small and working your way up, it's kind of it's more about like, I guess, where is there demand from conscious consumers and how is that being met, and might those kinds of brands want to, obviously reach a national audience with e-commerce.
So the one thing you didn't go into very much during your presentation is your revenue model.
Yep.
So how do you make bucks here?
Yeah, well, so I didn't want to preempt. I want to see what the revenue people had to say with their.
Well, they're not listening now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So obviously a key is what kind of bonus options and features do we add that will generate that $15 a month per store, for example. So we're working on a coupon matching, and I'll mention this later when folks rejoin, probably. Coupon matching engine. We're actually experimenting with Tiger Graph, a graph database to basically better present the right discount in the right place. And that technology we view would be very valuable in a broader marketplace as well. Because we're part of a software firm, also it's lead generation for custom e-commerce software development. And you have 1,000 stores, you're going to know which ones are ascendant, and then we have the opportunity to work with them with a trusted relationship. And then I do think, and I'll say this again, I'm sure later, that how we apply this to commerce as a whole, the other 95% that isn't impact framed, that's where we'll probably generate more of our revenue, quite likely. And there's a discussion about fees versus commissions, or commissions with a cap. We've had like a B Corp that had a hotel chain, and they're like, well, when someone books a hotel for $1,000, we're not going to pay 18%. But so yeah, exactly. So like, there's certainly ways that you could combine, small scale commissions. The key is results based. So it doesn't cost anything up front as an option, in my view.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So they're going to be back in about 10 seconds.
Great.
So get yourself a glass of water and get ready to answer questions and hopefully get some decent advice.
Let's do it.
All right, it looks like everybody's back. So what we'll do is go around the rooms twice in about 20 minutes. And each room, please ask your first question on your first round and save your second question for the second round so that everybody gets a relatively equal chance. So we'll start with group number 1, the introductions to stores. So this was Jim, Lynn, Mark, Rosalinda, and Jen. What have you got, guys?
Well, I think one of the things that we talked about was, how do you define a sustainable product? What's the criteria that you use to include such a product? And one of the suggestions was, I think you had alluded to Shopify. And, I have a store and I use Shopify. So I think that's a great avenue by which for you to pursue potential retailers in that space.
Great. I think it's a fundamental question, like what's in and what's out, right? So
Right.
we do have a page where we say, these are the things, so basically we're looking for sort of the gold standard is a fair trade certified brand. But that goes all the way down to they donate a % to charity, right? So there's a lot of great apps out there like Shopping Gives and Daily Karma, where stores have built in Roundup and other features. They often might mention sustainability. I look at the about page of every store that joins, and I look for that commitment to sustainability. But it's a relatively low bar in the sense that we're not doing verification. We would certainly accept complaints, if you will, right? So if someone says they're sustainable, but they really aren't, our network we have to protect our network. We're actually talking to the Fair Trade Federation right now, and we're going to do a dedicated page. We may, for example, for them do a dedicated circle of stores because some of them just want to be in that hyper good space. But B Corps are obviously members of the Social Enterprise Alliance, which are a lot of nonprofits that sell goods, buy one, give one models, nonprofit owned. So there's a bunch of, social enterprises that are not, that sell goods and for revenue. And so it's a pretty wide mix. And then sustainability commitment. So actually, if it's like simply like all organic or vegan or sort of where the impact is built into the product. But I've said no, for example, recently to a fair trade. Well, they said the word fair trade, but it was snake-based leathers, and it didn't have any of the sort of attributes you would look for. On Shopify, that was our basically big pivot, was to go from an integration with taking you an hour if you had a technologist to kind of tinker around with your receipt page to one is click the button and you're installed on Shopify. We plan to launch another app or a plugin for WooCommerce and Squarespace. But Shopify is clearly the engine for a lot of up and coming brands, and it's really relatively easy to use. And then it also has a whole ecology around it that is growing. Shopify basically shares a lot of revenue based on leads and different things for their platform, and as do a lot of the other e-commerce apps on the system.
Great, thank you. So let's go to room number 2. So this is revenue explorations. Carol, Jenny, Mark, Seth, and Terry.
Yeah, so Jenny had some really good ideas about enlisting community members and reaching out to consumers to see what they want to see on GoodCarts, and as well as some way to do some GPS or location tracking to support local businesses. That way, people can kind of see the change occurring around them and where their money's going.
So I love that buy local idea, and we've started to explore that, and so it's good confirmation. With Shopify, for example, we can actually automatically get from a store their location, their shipping zone, their currency. And so we thought a lot about how if you have someone on their browser the browser basically can roughly say, here's roughly where they are. And we basically know where the coupon can be used, and or even better yet, buy local options where it's being shipped from within your metro, for example, or maybe you can even pick it up. That's even more ecological. We'd love to invest in ways to make that happen. And Shopify had a big survey that came out, and folks in the U.S. and Canada said we like buy local. The folks in Europe, for economic reasons, improving the local economy. In Europe, they like buy local for the sustainability, and so it's a little different opportunity for us there. In terms of consumers, what they want, so this is one of the revenue ideas we actually have is, when you claim your coupon, you put in your email address and you grab it. We thought we're considering adding a little opt-in or opt-out button. We'll experiment. It'll be different in different countries, quite likely. But initially for North America, it'll probably be opt-out, where we'll have a weekly good deal, and then we will feature actually conscious consumer-oriented content from across the net on a weekly basis, and mix in with that some of our best performing offers, quite likely then offer it for a fee, the ability for our members to have paid placement in this bonus option. The key for us is because all of our traffic is generated with this big engine of post-checkout traffic. In some ways, they've already paid by giving us traffic. We don't have to advertise for that traffic, right? So that we need to be reciprocal with. But we could certainly charge for people to get extra exposure, to be featured on the top of the page. We do mix them right now. The stores that give us more traffic get up to the top, but we could add a featured slot. We also think that there's an opportunity to do enhanced analytics, where they might pay a fee a month in order to better understand how to have a better performing coupon, and different types of things that basically really help enhance the service for them, as well as perhaps buy into bonus traffic exposure.
And Steve, perhaps like one more thing if I still have time, like
Yeah.
kind of how you see on Amazon where they have consumers who bought this also likely bought this, just have products that complement. Maybe if you buy locally sourced honey, maybe you buy locally sourced bread because you're having, you know, a peanut butter honey sandwich or something like just like that to kind of just keep them in your web app longer.
Yeah, I mean, one of the we're experimenting with Tiger Graph because we're part of a software development company. We're actually developing a line of sort of transactional intelligence that could impact healthcare, for example. But GoodCarts is sort of the case study, if you will, to build up our experience with that. And so if we do a better and better job of showing the right coupons to the right exiting customers, we feel that technology could be saleable across broader retail. But along those lines, like if you have a relationship, we're not currently a place where you buy things directly. We're not a marketplace, if you will. And we're not planning that at this point. But there may be lots of creative ways that we could be a trusted engine among our stores. It could even be that, I'll give you an example. Dean's Beans, people buy coffee, soak it up cloths. People have spills, they buy these cloths, right? It's like, it's really interesting to watch this pattern where people buy coffee, buy these reusable paper towels, basically from Sweden, printed in Minnesota with different sayings and greeting cards, actually. And we see a lot of potential in better matchmaking there, and potentially then obviously selling that technology in other channels.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to group number 3. So this is networks, advisors, and investors. 3 people in this group, Greg, Jacques, and Tony.
Yeah, hey, it's Greg. So this is my first time here, and I appreciate being invited. So
Welcome.
Thank you very much. So, you know, I don't have any personal firsthand experience, but I'm working on a business idea that's, you know, kind of in the same space. And one of the investors, and I think they also would help with networking potentially, is based here in Raleigh, called One Better Ventures. And like I said, I don't have any personal firsthand experience, but they seem to be open to you know, being contacted by you know, people working on businesses like yours, and I think they might have some ideas. They seem from their profile like a pretty solid crew. As far as like I guess really a question / comment to your to the first question that you got around, like, how do you certify, how do you, and you don't certify, but how do you determine who's in, who's out? Have you looked at any things? There's all kinds of ethical lists out there. There's like Just Capital, for instance. They only look at the largest, like the Fortune 1000. And that's one of the issues with a lot of these lists, is they only look at the really big companies. But there's a new one that just came out from Human Rights Campaign on, you know, the businesses that are most equitable to LGBTQ, and I think they do go down a little lower in terms of size. And beyond as a sort of source, a quality check, if you will, for, you know, some of your businesses that you include, I think they could be good networking sources, because the people that are in those communities they really care about this stuff, and they, you know, might be good places to bounce ideas around. The other idea that I've been thinking about that I haven't cracked just yet, but I wonder if you might think about as well, is chambers of commerce. They are in touch constantly with their small businesses and their communities. And one woman that I spoke to recently, who was on the Chamber of Commerce in Greensboro, counseled me to, you know, if you want to work with them, get in touch with them early, understand like what their survey schedule is, so that, you know, you don't come to them the week before they're getting ready to survey their businesses. Anyway, a few ideas.
Well, that could really fold into the buy local aspect as well. I mean, to be honest, there's all different values that people come to, how they shop their values. And if one of them is buy local or made in USA, is an example, we've thought about a dedicated circle of just any kind of made in USA brand. Sustainability is not the lens there. We've also had conversations with Black, BLAQ.com. And Shopify is also working with Operation Hope around launching like 1 million Black-owned businesses over 10 years, which I would assume mostly are e-commerce stores. We could have a dedicated ethnic-oriented circle of stores. In that case, there could be different pricing models, and even with partners. If someone already has a trusted network of brands, could be the chamber. Well, actually, we've been talking to the Better Business Bureau. They have a BBB for Good effort being piloted in Colorado, but it's going to go to different markets. And we say, hey, let's try out our main circle, but we'd be glad to work with you to have a co-branded space, because ultimately our cost is getting the stores to join. And then we're doing all the different things, content marketing, advertising. But our number one thing I should mention is finding the right email newsletter to get mentioned in. So the American Sustainable Business Council, which is kind of like the sustainable chamber, if you will, we're partnered with them and Social Venture Circle. And so we actually have an email coming out not next week to 30,000 people. And obviously most of them don't have stores, but hopefully they all know a store or a brand. And we're actually going to try to focus on the conscious consumer in that network to say, hey, grab a coupon, test this out. It's a bonus way to try it. Now tell a store, because we really think word of mouth is key. And we have been getting word back that in the Fair Trade Federation, they've had conversations on their intranet about us, and it's been very positive. So we actually have testimonials now from our members. Wagster is one of our big fans. They help the homeless in Oakland gain culinary skills, and when they graduate, they get the opportunity to work in a gourmet dog treat company called Wagster. They've mentioned us there's another network called goodmarket.global. It's a pretty amazing. They're the ones that have all the criteria, right? They have honestly, about 500 questions you can answer to get listed on their directory. But it's actually very educational. If you're trying to think about creating an ethical business, try to sign up with their system, and it asks you everything from recycling to your energy use to how you pay people.
All right, good. So let's go to the off the wall group. This is Dominic, Dwight, Christy, Bob, and Wayne.
So the thought that I have was not 100% formulated, because George, you were sticking to schedule. So I'm leading off with that. So if this sounds half-baked, it is. Stephen, we had no clue what your business is. Not a clue. How you make money, what you do, what it is. However, the only one thing that's clear to me is you guys are a marketing company. At the end, you boil it all down. So the way this is coming to mind is you guys should probably raise a fund. You could be a fund of funds. You can get impact investors, ESG investors. Hell, you could probably even get opportunity zone investors, because I bet you more than half of your member companies are located in opportunity zones, or could be, right? You could use, and then you could basically become the marketing machine and the marketing arm for all these people, because they don't have the capital themselves to really get their businesses to the next level, or else they wouldn't need you. So you could probably make not only a management fee, but you could probably make a pretty good margin on allowing your members to use the money for marketing purposes. I don't know what the whole business model is yet, but that's kind of where I'm, because a lot of the impact funds and ESG funds have no idea how to find all these different places to put the money. And a lot of them have time constraints. I'm involved in a real estate project right now, and there's a lot of time constraints on this. So you may want to explore how to be able to show how you could put a lot of money to use at one time.
Yep.
And then you guys just take a management fee.
Well, along those lines, Social Venture Circle is, our founder, Chris Dykstra, has been involved with them for 15 years, and it's kind of like half impact entrepreneurs, half impact investors. And when I attended their virtual conference, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, we could be a matchmaker. We will imagine we have 1,000 stores. We have month by month data, which is very confidential, but we will know which brands are ascendant month over month. We will know where there are early stage opportunities for an impact oriented investor who's interested in retail to have an opportunity to be connected with that brand, right? And so we've been talking internally about, well, we don't want stores to join us just because they think they might get exposure for investors down the road. But think about it. I mean, what an opportunity to help someone who doesn't even know they're ascendant get connected to someone who might be interested in investing in them. Because so similar to your vein, but I really like the idea of, a fund of funds, if you will, for marketing and help. And we obviously can bring in traffic through different ways, not just sharing.
Yeah, and I happen to know a family office out in California. The guy made a lot of money in commercial real estate, flex industrial buildings, and now he's transforming into helping retail brands find their brick and mortar strategy.
Okay.
So, and I guarantee some of your members are going to make it to that point. So
Coconut Whisk that I mentioned, they bootstrapped to 60 stores. They're now opening a brick and mortar downtown, basically a vegan pancake shop in downtown Minneapolis. And they're just now looking at maybe some funding. So they've gotten this far they've gotten grants and some different awards here and there, but they've never taken on debt or investors. I should mention I'm actually on May 5th with Social Venture Circle. I'm hosting a webinar with them called Gen Z Impact Retail meets Next Gen Impact Investing. And I'm actually trying to find basically some impact investors to respond to these two startups that or three startups I'll have, basically talking about their story. One of them's already raised 1.7 million. It's called AgriCycle. This guy is 23 who runs an amazing dried fruit company out of East Africa. And it's called Jolly Fruits is the sub brand. And then you have Bella, who was with Coconut Whisk, will be on the panel, who's ripe to now grow. And is along those lines, it's sort of like, what can we do to help our companies grow together, right? And we will have some big winners that are part of our network, and we hope they as they succeed and we help them, they'll stay with us, obviously, when they have thousands of customers a day.
So we've had a lot of back and forth on these questions. We're not going to have time to go through all the rooms a second time. But Stephen is going to stick around after the meeting when we'll have our usual around the coffee pot chit chat after the meeting officially ends. But we do have time for a couple more. Rosalinda had one in the chat about greenwashing and transparency. Rosalinda, you want to expand on that? We can't hear you. You're muted.
Yep. And you can hear my cat too meowing in the background.
Great. I'll find my cat. Where's my cat? Oh, okay.
But one of the things that I was going to say is that there is a tremendous amount of greenwashing that's happening in the industry. And even, certifications aren't a way to sort of discount, any of the greenwashing that happens. So I find that people who are leaning more towards transparency in their business practices are a better way to lean. But the other concern that I have too is just there is a tremendous amount of elitism that happens in sustainability. And I'm wondering how you are going to be addressing that.
I think that, that's great. Yeah.
And the lack of diversity too. So the elitism and the lack of diversity that exists in that industry. So.
No, absolutely. So on the greenwashing, I'm actually commissioning a piece of content on cause marketing versus greenwashing versus PR stunts, right? Because there are a lot of folks that basically do what they do, and then they basically do something that looks good on the side, but it doesn't really change the fundamental way that they operate their business. We're small currently, relatively speaking, right? When we have 1,000 stores, I'm sure that there'll be stores that will have gotten through us, and we'll be like doing cleaning, if you will, and say, oh, we made a mistake here. This brand, there's nothing really impactful about it other than them claiming they are, right? And how do we scale the that sense of trust? And I mean, and it comes down to like when I had this recent example of this snake skin leather company, right? I thought to myself, well, as we're also reaching out to more fair trade brands, how would they feel about their customers being exposed to that discount, and what would we do over time where someone could then say, this company wasn't what they said they were. We are obviously taking a light, I've seen a lot of the folks that have been doing ethical brand directories and marketplaces, and the amount of stuff that they collect, and they obviously, good power to them, but there's a lot of cost in vetting, if you will, if you're going to go like deep in that. And so, but I'm sure we'll run into that issue head on as we scale. In terms of like diversity and elitism, one of the things I'll say is that there is around sustainable fashion, this notion of the waif, often white, wealthy young woman, that is incredibly stylish and can spend $300 on a shirt or whatever, and I get that. And I think it's really important for us to be conscious of, like, how do you make sustainability accessible to all levels of income in terms of, like, your purchasing. And I talk to folks, I mean, we run into some brands that say, we're a gourmet brand. We're a brand that doesn't discount, we're a premium brand. And I say, well, you could try us out because, we're not in Google, but I understand that. But ultimately, a lot of the studies that are coming out, and I've even read this from a German study with Fair Trade Coffee, basically impact gets you a customer when basically the price is similar. So, and if the discounting makes the price similar once or for a moment, that may be what you need to get them to try you out. But your product may very legitimately cost more. But the idea is that if it's more sustainably produced, more organic, more whatever, it's going to be a higher quality experience, and that's how you get them to become a repeat customer. So I've been the shopper in the family. I've clipped coupons for many years.
Let's cut it off there, and we'll
Sounds
go to
good.
the virtual coffee pot after we finish the meeting. So Dominic is going to go to community announcements, and then we'll wrap up the formal meeting.
Of course. Thanks, George. So community announcements is a time for people who are part of our community to make announcements about upcoming events that they may have, or successes that they've had with their business, or new community resources they may have found out about they want to share with the RTP 1 Million Cups community. There's a couple of things that I have to start off, and anybody else who wants to make an announcement, please ping myself or George, and we'll call you next. So I've got two. One, just to reiterate, we want to let businesses in the community, startups in the community know that we're here. So if you know somebody who is a startup entrepreneur who you think could benefit from coming and presenting at 1 Million Cups, please let them know we're here, make an introduction to myself or any of the organizers who are here, so that we can have a conversation with them and find out if we think their company can benefit from presenting, and share some of the reasons why they may be able to do so. The second thing that I wanted to announce is there is a virtual networking event tomorrow, which is an RTP business networking virtual event. I will share the Eventbrite link for registration in the chat. So if you're interested in doing some actual networking virtually, it's tomorrow evening from 7 to 8 p.m. And you can join us via Zoom. And go ahead to anybody else who may have an announcement. No announcement this week?
There's actually another as every Friday, there's another fish fry this time, and I'll put the address in the chat there. It's at Immaculate Conception Catholic Church in downtown Durham, right off the Durham Freeway, Chapel Hill Street there. So it's right off the freeway right there, and it'll be another drive-through.
I have an announcement. I'm actually going to drop a link in the chat, but TS Designs and Solid State Clothing have been hosting these monthly talks with their supply chain, and they have been following their supply chain from cotton fiber all the way to the finished t-shirt. So next week on Thursday, we are going to be hosting a conversation with the Carolina Cotton Works on the finishing process. So I will drop that information into the chat for those of you who are in the industry or just curious from even a consumer perspective, what happens in the making of your clothes. So.
Thank you very much, Rosalinda. Do we have any other announcements?
I'd like to make two.
Yeah, go for it, George.
So the first one is we just did a poll. Thank you for those of you who responded. And our poll says we should keep the breakout rooms. We've been doing this for a couple months now. And so overwhelmingly, their response was keep the breakout rooms. We had a few requests to make them a bit longer. So perhaps we'll lengthen them a little bit next week and see how that goes. So thank you for responding to the poll. Second thing is next week, right here, same place, same time, is Enatrix. So this is Jerry Lee, who has joined us several times in the past. He's not here today, but he has a business in ag tech. So this will be different, given that North Carolina is one of the top agricultural states in the country. It's very appropriate, and we'll welcome his presentation next week, which I think you will enjoy. I certainly enjoyed working with him. So hope you'll be able to join us next Wednesday.
All right. Thank you, George. Much appreciated. All right. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the meeting, and appreciate you all being here.